Welcome, Queens and Kings, to the NBR Show. I'm your host, Natasha B. Russell, aka NBR, and I'm so excited to have you here today. Today we're talking about a topic that is dear to my heart. Do what you love. And truthfully, that's how I started my business, is actually doing what I love and finding a way to monetize that. And so we're going to talk with the most beautiful Gayle Kloster today. But before we invite her, I just want to share a little bit about myself for those of you who are new to joining me on the show or who don't really know much about me. A little bit about me on the entrepreneurial end. I do own a business, NBR Strategic Solutions, and we're a local PR agency, so public relations. And what do? I have a team of about 9 beautiful people over there, men and women, and we help you get your brand in the public eye. You may be thinking about starting your own business, or you currently have a business and you're looking for ways to build on your brand, spread more awareness. Well, that team, my team, we help you do just that. And we do offer complimentary discovery sessions. So feel free to go online, nbrstrategicsolutions.com, and get in touch with me. Secondly, I am a transformation coach, a certified ICF International Trained Certification Coach. I do business, I do clarity around what do you want to see show up in your life? What's your purpose? I help you with your life, achieving your goals, and I say achieving your dreams because that's really what it's about, people. How do you achieve your goals and your dreams? And we usually do that through strategic planning, right? You got to know what you want. What's the purpose? What's the vision? Know it. We paint that picture with clarity and then we work toward achieving it. And last but not least, I'm a certified motivational speaker. So I host events for men and women to empower you, to truly inspire, motivate, and empower you to become the best possible version of yourselves, including me. I believe that growth is a process, that we never want to become stagnant, right? That we should be continually learning and evolving every day to that big grandiose vision for our life, for our business. And indeed, I say if you can envision it, if your mind can conceive it, then you better believe you can achieve it. So welcome, beautiful people, again to the NBR Show. I'm excited to have you here today. Again, we have the most amazing Gayle Kloster who will be joining us today. And the topic is do what you love. So for those of you, I see we have Airdrie out there, Canada. Wonderful. We got a social media coach out there. Calgary, right at home. Yes. Do we have anybody else? Feel free to put it in the comment section and let me know where you're watching from. I also want you to think about what do you really want to achieve next. By the end of 2020, we know 2020 has been a year like we'll never forget. We know this, right? We never saw a pandemic coming. We never thought that we'd be living in a world where we had to self-isolate, quarantine, distance ourselves, and still we got to be socially distant. And I know that's hard on a lot of people, especially if you're the type of person like me who likes to have live events and meet people in person and you're a hugger, right? So it has been a bit of a challenge for many of us, but we're getting through it. And I like to focus on the positive. If we focus on the negative people, we'll be drained. We'll lose energy. We'll lose that zest for living. So I always want to focus on the positive, and I ensure that if I do that, I attract more positivity. And you too can do the same. So for all of you who are just joining, again, tell me where you're from and put one goal in the comment section. What is one goal that you want to achieve in your life? Could be a health goal, a financial goal, could be a business goal that you want to achieve before the end of the year. Write it in the comment section. And that's the first step, right? Envisioning it, creating the goals, and then we're going to achieve it. So without further ado, I'm so excited to have Gayle. I met the beautiful Gayle. It's probably been a couple years now. We met at Business Extravaganza hosted by the most amazing Andrea Cox and her team. And we came out, it was the first annual one, and she was literally not too far away from my booth. And I just know when I connected with her instantly, she was so warm. And you can just tell when someone's genuine. She was genuinely warm and compassionate, and we just connected. And so she came to one of my first ladies only Boss Up events, and it was wonderful to have her there. And then we just started to, build a relationship since then. And I know she's been passionate about what she does, which she's going to be sharing with all of you in a minute. But I want to just share a little introduction to who she is. Yes, she is amazing, isn't she? She is amazing. Genuinely authentic, people. So she'll be joining me. So a little bit about Gayle. Gayle is a wife. She's a mom of 3 beautiful children. And she had a 20-year amazing career as a registered nurse. I didn't know that, Gayle. 20 years as an accomplished nurse. And that was her career. She did patient care, management, mentoring. And then in her early 40s, she started to feel anxiety about where she was in life, motherhood, marriage, career, finances. And she says, I knew I was made for more and I needed it. I needed more time. I needed more money. I needed more energy. And so she became an entrepreneur late in the game. It's never too late, people. Never too late. And which wasn't easy. Can totally relate, but it was definitely worth it. So Gayle, let's find you here. I see you've sent me a request. And let's go live together. So people, queens and kings up there, welcome Gayle to the NBR Show. Hey.
Hey, am I here? Am I on?
You are here and you are on. Wonderful.
Technology is just, it's fascinating and terrifying at the same time.
I can totally relate. I had a guest the other day who couldn't even connect. I could hear his voice, but couldn't see his face. And like, that's the thing about technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you're on, you're straight, you're not crooked, or, you know, you look beautiful. So I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. So how's your day going?
It's good. I'm like nervous because my house is like Grand Central Station, like probably everybody's house now because everybody's home, everybody lives, nobody's on a schedule. You never know what's going to happen. So
okay, well, that's someone might pop in there.
Yeah, as someone's popping in the door right now.
All right, people. Well, we know anything can happen on this live, and it is live indeed. So welcome, Gayle. You know, I was saying how we met. I think it's been like 2, almost 3 years ago at the extravaganza.
I know, but I feel like we're sisters.
Right? That's what I was saying. When we met, like instantly I connected to you. I knew that you were genuine and compassionate about what you do. And I love that authenticity. So excited to have you today. And we're talking about doing what you love. And so, you know, I have questions really just to fuel the conversation, and you know what they are. But why don't we start by asking you like the number one question that I love to ask. Who are you? Who is Gayle Kloster?
Well, you know what was funny is I was like, did she like really want it? Like, are we going deep into like, you know, all that? Or is it like, you know, it's always a loaded question, right? So, you know, I'm just a regular person, which is hilarious because I see so many people who think that you have to be, you know, something else, right? Like something, you know, that you never think, but I'm just a normal, regular person. And what is funny is that we always think, you know, all these successful people are like have something else. And then you'll see, especially now when we're seeing people on Zoom and we're seeing people like celebrities and stuff on, they got the same chaos and crap going on as we do. Right. And, but we put everybody on this pedestal of like, oh, it must be perfect. And, you know, they got kids coming in on their videos and they, you know, everything is falling apart sometimes too. So I think I'm a real person and I'm curious. I'm a curious person. I want to know because honestly, like I want to change the world. I know it sounds weird and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it.
It does not sound weird. I want to change the world too. That's the mission, right? I want to make this place better. So I'm with you on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's me. I'm just an entrepreneur. I work from home. I've got kids. I've been married a really long time. I don't even know how long it's been. And I think that we have an obligation, and I feel like I have an obligation to just share like you do. I think we just feel like we need to share what's real. Yeah. You know, like not what's sugar-coated or what we think things should be.
I love that. It's authenticity, right? It's being real and telling people like entrepreneurship is not easy. We know this, especially when it's full time, where you know that that's your 100% income. And when you talked about just like how we have these people on a pedestal, like celebrities are just like you and I. Like we are people, each and every one of us, we are individuals. Underneath the color of our skin or the skin itself is blood. It is a heart beating. It is lungs. You know, we are all human beings. I love that. And nobody really needs to be on this imaginary pedestal. Like everybody has something special. You know, I call it purpose. We all got a gift, right? And when we tap into that greatness and we're able to share that with our world, Gayle, that's what we were born to do. And that is what gives our life true meaning and true fulfillment. And so people out there, if you're feeling like you're lacking in something, I want you to know you're lacking in nothing. And it's so important to not look around because half of what we see on social media, maybe 90%, 80%, not even real. Wouldn't you agree? Like it's this fake facade of what might be appealing to you people. But a lot of times we don't show our worst selves out there. We're going to show our best selves, right? So we all go through stuff. That's life. It's just how you deal with it. how do you respond to it? Do you keep going or you give up? And I say never give up. I don't know if you heard that story about Tamar Braxton, and I don't know if it's really true, but apparently, did you hear the story? I saw it over the weekend. Do you know who the Braxtons are? Like Toni Braxton, so her sister. Apparently, they said that she attempted suicide, or I don't know, it was drugs and alcohol, or not drugs, maybe, but like, you know, prescription pills, I would assume, and alcohol or whatever. I don't know the full story, but I hope she's doing well. But that just goes to show that there's so many celebrities out there, people who are doing amazing things, and still they can be affected in a place where they think they have it all. But deep down, there's something that's not fulfilling that would make you think about potentially. I'm not saying she did end her life. That's what they're saying, or try to end her life, I should say. But yeah, so you got to find true fulfillment. And that comes from doing what you love, like doing what you were born to do, people. And it's not looking at someone else and saying, I want to be like that person. But it's saying, what do I do well? And how can I do more of that and give more of myself to the world? And then that's truly where success comes in. So you're a mom, you're a wife, you've been a wife for, I was like, you're in your early 40s. You look like, I don't even know how old you are, but you look like in your 30s. Late
50. I'm 50.
Are you 50? See, people, when you're doing what you love, you don't age a day. So tell me a little bit, what do you do for fun when you're not working? We'll dig into there, but what do you do for fun when you're not working?
You know what? It's funny because I'm pretty boring, and you know, a funny fact is, like, I'm an introvert. Like, that's the other. I'm an introvert, but people fill me up, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm the happiest if I'm like in my house by myself, reading a book, whatever. But then I know that when I'm around other people, that's what fuels me. So it's funny, you've got that introverted extrovert that likes to be, you know, not an adrenaline junkie, not around a lot of people, but then I know I still, when I'm around people, I'm like, oh my God, these are the people I get all my energy from. So I don't know. I like to read. I loved watching my kids in their sports. We're a big sport family, and now we don't have sports. So now we'd like to go to like professional games, like NBA games, and you know, those kinds of things I like experiences. I think, I mean, even one of my kids said one time, like, you don't like stuff, but you like experiences. Like, you know, like I could have fun doing anything as long as I was getting something from it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Exciting. So I know before you jumped in, I didn't even know this, that you were a registered nurse for like 20 years.
Yep.
So what was the turning point? You said that you weren't, you know, potentially you wanted more money, more time, more peace.
Yep. You know what's funny is I tell people this a lot. When I am 50, and like when I graduated high school in 1988, seems like forever ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. Women became nurses or teachers. Like, we had some women that went to school for like maybe accounting or whatever, but like, honestly, like, it wasn't like someone told us that's what we had to do, like, not at all. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, it was this like thing, and it wasn't 1938, it was 1988. Yeah. And you just like, it was just kind of like, oh well, I guess I'm gonna be a nurse, or I guess I'm gonna be a teacher. That's what women do. Mm-hmm. Even though I wasn't, like, my parents never told me that. It's just funny how we get these subconscious messages. And I did love it. I loved being a nurse. I think I was meant to do that job. But it's a young person's job. You know, it's long hours. I always worked in the emergency room, and I loved it. Loved it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, then, and I felt like I was helping people. Like, I really like to do that. But then, you know, we get in this rat race of childcare, money, working. What am I making for supper? Like, well, I'm sure people in the comments could be like listing out all those things. Yeah. And you just go, this is it? Like, I'm going to fight with my husband for the rest of my life about childcare and what hours I'm working, and then I can never get a vacation day. And, you know, like, and so I was a little bit heartsick, and I wasn't looking to be an entrepreneur because I have zero business experience, zero creativity. But, you know, you send that message out there. I was like, I need something else. And it came as a business, but I didn't see it for what it was at first. But then once I got it, I was like, oh my God, I think I was meant to do this. Yeah. And the other thing is, you got to reinvent yourself. It's okay to reinvent yourself now. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that what happens is, do we get stuck in those roles and we're tied to like our degrees, you know, like even for you, maybe like you were like, well, I have a degree in this, and so that's who I am. But we don't have to stay there. And I think it's really hard for women to get around that. And if you're miserable and you're anxious, you don't have to, something has to change. It's because you were made for more. Like, I feel like that is when you have that feeling in your, like, where you're like, I don't like my job anymore. I don't like my life anymore. I don't like this anymore. I think it's somebody or something telling you that you have to do something else because you're made to do something. You're not working up to your full potential. That's anxiety. That's half people's anxiety, is they just know that they're not doing their best. And I knew I wasn't, you know, you in your career, if you've been in it for a long time, I think that's what happens too, is you're not doing it the way you don't have that hunger anymore, and you're missing that.
How many of you can relate to that out there? Type a yes out there, or, you know, tell me what it is that you want to be doing. Maybe you're in a role right now that doesn't fulfill you, or maybe you are. What are you doing? Does it fulfill you? Type it in the comment section. I would love to hear. And that is a good point, Gayle. Like, yes, I have a degree in communications, a major in public relations. And I knew before that I was working in legal, like as a paralegal, because my dad was like, oh, you should be a lawyer, because usually it's like, oh, a lawyer or a doctor, or, you know, and those are like the two choices they usually get. And I was like, you know, before I invest in all those years of school, I'm going to start working with lawyers to see if I actually enjoy it. So at 18, I started applying for roles that I basically, they would say, had no business applying for. I didn't have the diploma, but I knew I could learn. And I was always that type of person that had that mindset that I could learn anything. And so I got into a really good firm, started working with smaller firms in litigation, then went to Bennett Jones, like a bigger firm, for years. And one thing I realized was that I didn't love the law in the sense of doing those contracts and like all that reading. For me, what fulfilled me was meeting with the people and signing off, like when they had their closings, and interacting and sharing those positive quotes, and people saying, hey, Natasha, I want you to know that that quote today really made a difference today. That really helped me get through the day. And I was onto something, but even then I didn't know that I was going to end up here where I am today. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at some point. Like, I already knew that, but I didn't know I was going to be coaching. I didn't know I was going to be speaking. And I still took the PR component, of course, because that's what I've learned and did well for other companies in energy. But there was a time where I started working more in corporate, doing what I was born to do, apparently, with the degree, but I wasn't fulfilled. I was like, yeah, the money's great. You know, it's a nice lifestyle in that sense, but every day it's like, I'm not fulfilled. Like, it's just not doing anything for me. It's not fulfilling my heart. So I look at it like the PR is my brain baby, and then the coaching and the speaking is my heart baby. So that's how I've deciphered between the two. And when I get to work with someone, whether it's a man or a woman, and see them actually achieve a goal or one of their dreams come into fruition, like when they win, I win, Gayle. I'm like, yes, that's what fulfills me. So people, if you're wondering, I always tie doing what you love to purpose. You know, purpose equals passion. And the great thing, like you noted, Gayle, is that it can change. Maybe for the first 20 years, you know, you could be doing nursing or you could be doing engineering or whatever. And then it's like, this is not enough. Like, I want more. This is not fulfilling me. It's okay to reinvent yourself or go down a different path. So I love what you said there. Like, for me, that's exactly what has happened. I've now transitioned from the corporate, working, doing all, you know, the PR for energy companies, now doing that on the side, but really focusing on the speaking and the coaching, which I love. And that fulfills me. So people, ask yourself, what fulfills you? And if you're in a role that you don't love, well, why are you still there? Why are you still there? There's a way, right? So let me ask you a little bit about, now let's jump into entrepreneurial. So you left your nursing, you left your nursing and you decided to go into what? Tell me about, what was it that drew you in, that you're like, this is what I want to be doing now? Tell the audience. Well,
that's a great question, because I think that people, you know, there's always these good jobs out there, right? You know, like nursing's such a good job. And it, honestly, now I think that there's no such thing as a good job. I mean, that there's no more 40 hours a week, 40 years, you know, they're not always safe, right? But I was lucky that I got into a business called Arbonne, and I started because I needed time and money. And all I could think about is that I needed to, you know, because the cost of living in Calgary was tripling at that time. Like, it tripled. I don't know about you guys, but my salary did not triple. In fact, I was capped. Okay. So once you've been in those positions for 20 years, like, I think for sure nursing, but I think other professions like teaching, like once you've been there and you're in the max pay, you will never get another raise. And I used to go to bed at night and be like, you know, oh my God, like, what if something happens? You know, like, what if something happens? And, you know, I don't, you know, that's it. It just becomes this like thing in your head that you're just like, I don't spend enough time with my kids. I don't, you know, what happens if something happens to one of us? Because we're like a dual income family. Like, you know, what, all those things. Who needs to go to hockey camp and all this kind of stuff? And my salary wasn't tripling, and you get paid by the hour. And so in order to get paid more, then you have to work more. And I was already working full time. So it becomes like, that's where the time came in, where I was like, I need to make the same amount of money in half the time. Yeah, that would make life really easy. And I thought there was nothing out there like that. So luckily I bought a business in a box, right? And I used to laugh. Well, actually, I didn't have any education in those kinds of businesses. I knew how to be a nurse and that was it. I didn't really have any experience with those kinds of things, but you know, now I do it. So I strictly did it for money, and I'm not embarrassed to say that. And that's just the way it goes, because there's a lot of people in my age and, you know, in our community who live paycheck to paycheck, and it's a scary place to be. You know, like that's not where you want to be when you're, you know, in your 40s. It's okay when you're in your 20s, but when you're in your 40s, it gets to be a little bit scary. But now I genuinely do it because I love that business model, that someone like me who had no business experience, no time, no money at the time, was able to start a business. Like it was literally delivered to my door in a box, and I was able to start that business that way. You know, because not all of us have the time, the money, that kind of thing to create something from the bottom up. So I am all about saying I did not do those things. I bought a business that was in a box, and I still had to become an entrepreneur though. I still had to figure it out, and I still had to work. And it became this vehicle for me to make money. And then when you say that something like clicks, like then I started doing it like for the money, and then I started seeing people achieve goals, and I saw people growing, and I saw myself grow like bigger than I ever thought I would grow. And I got addicted to that. So it starts with money, but then, you know, I would give up the money to see what it does for people when people start to learn and they grow. And I'm really, you know, luckily nursing honed that skill that I had of like listening and connecting with people, so that, you know, I could observe and help them the way they needed to be helped. Right. And so I was really, really lucky that I found that. And it's, you know, it's funny how you know, sometimes things are right in front of you, but you just don't want to, you're like, no, that's not it. Like I want something, but not that. Yeah. But you have to be open. You always have to be open to like what's coming and see it for what it is, and not what you think it is or what other people think it is. And I like to show people that you don't have to settle. That's the other thing. I like to show people that you can reinvent yourself, that you don't have to settle, especially women. Like I love men, but we've been talking about men for about 500 years. So we talk about women now.
Yeah, it's our time to shine.
Yeah.
I hear you. And I love what you just said about that. Is that, okay, you were honest. I wanted to make more money. I needed to make more money. I was in a place in my life where I was living paycheck to paycheck, and it was scary. And that's the thing, people. We shouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. We shouldn't. And that if you are, it means that you're not, in my opinion, exploring other opportunities to use your full potential. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but you should be working towards something that's greater. You should be not okay living in that standard of living where it's like every day I'm struggling, or every week I don't know I'm going to pay my mortgage or my rent. That is not okay. And I want you to know that there's opportunities out there, but most times I find people are afraid. Fear of failure. I swear that is what I hear all the time. I'm afraid of failing. And I always say this, you know, you only fail when you give up. And the funny thing is, you said Arbonne. I tried Arbonne a long time ago, Gayle. Like when I just started working in legal. So 18, 19, 20, my friend was having those little house parties where you come and they do, you know, do-overs. And
oh, yeah.
Right. I remember loving the product. I was like, I love the scrub. I love how it felt. But then it was like the business component. And this was still new to me. Like I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at some point in my life, but I was like, I'm not a marketer. And people will be like, you're so good, Natasha. What do you mean you're not a marketer? I'm like, I'm not a marketer. Like, I love the product, but I can't see myself selling it. So I tried that back in the day, like years ago, like decades ago, I should say. Arbonne, It Works, WFG, because that was the motive. Okay, how do I make more money?
Yeah.
How do I make more money? But I knew for me that it didn't fulfill me in the sense of trying to climb that kind of ladder. I knew I need something else for me personally.
Yeah, because you're creative. You know,
yeah.
you had that spirit of, you know, I want to do some, like, these kinds of things are not for everyone. And I think that that's the misconception, is that even in our industry, we do a lot ourselves a disfavor by saying, oh, it's for everybody. No, it's not.
But it's for the right person.
It's for the right. It's just like any other thing that you do. Yeah. You know, you got, it's, you can't put a round thing in a square peg, right? Like it's got to be your thing. And to be successful at it, you have to love it. Like, you have to like what you do.
Absolutely. And that's what I say. I made a post today. I'm like, you want to be successful. The first rule is to define success for yourself, because it means different things to different people. And secondly, like, it's about purpose, people. We are all born with one. Like, there's something that you have that I don't have, vice versa. Whether you're able to fulfill that in a box, in a business that is already ready in a box, that's great. I know people that are doing very well, making 6 figures a month, ridiculous money a month, doing like things like Arbonne or It Works or WFT. But you got to find what works for you. That's the key. It's not then competing. Like, so-and-so's doing this business, so I want to do the business just so I can do it better. No, the thing about it, and money, everything we do, of course we need money. I think there's been a time where people thought money was evil. Money is not evil, people. We need it. It's energy. It's a form of things to pay for the things you need and to achieve more. But if you take it as a standpoint, I need more money to be more greedy and to just keep it to myself. I think that's a mindset thing. But if it's like, I need more money so I can take care of my family and do more for the community and do more for the people out there that need it, it's a different mindset, right? So money isn't evil. It's your relationship with money. You have to actually want it to attract it, and for the right reasons. So when you talk about business people and want to start your own business or doing what you love, the first rule is to find what fulfills you. And I say this because you would do it even if you weren't getting paid for it. Mm-hmm. The business, then you definitely got to get paid for it, right? So in your experience with Arbonne, I'm sure it's a double incentive because you love the products, because I know they're amazing. I have another friend that's doing that as well. She's an optometrist. She has 3 practices, but she just loves it. So she's like, if I'm gonna use the products, I might as well sell it too. It just makes sense, right? So find what you love, people. What gives you fulfillment, like true fulfillment? Even if you didn't get paid for it, but you need to get paid for it. If it's business, what would you be doing? That's the first question to answer. And when you're able to answer that question, everything else will fall into place. Now, not everyone was built to create a business from scratch, but that's why we have coaches that do that, like yourself. That's why we have other people who are going to support you. So don't let that be the reason that you don't move forward in doing what you love. Now, I want to talk a little bit about challenges, because I know for sure, Gayle, I've had my share of challenges, but I look at them as opportunities for growth, starting my own business, starting my own company. But what would you say are some things that you've experienced when you ventured out onto your own?
Well, how much time do we have? But you know what? And I liked what you said about money. And here's the thing that money also does. Money gives you choices. Money gives you the choice to stay in a relationship or leave a relationship. It gives you the choice, to put your kids in a different school or not put your kid. Like, money gives you choices, and
freedom.
Freedom.
Yes.
And you can't help anybody. Natasha and I cannot save the world if we don't have any money. Like, we have to have money to change the world. Like, that's one way that you have to have, to change the world. But I think, like, the biggest challenge I had is like smashing that wall of like what you do or decide to do is going to look a certain way, like the whole, like, you should have a 9-to-5 job, being an entrepreneur is just a bad idea anyway. You hear people say that, it's just too risky. So that I had handled, but, not knowing, like, you're building the plane as you're flying it. That's like kind of the analogy I have when it comes to, and maybe I read that somewhere or heard it somewhere. So I'm not going to coin it as my own, but like, you're literally, when you're an entrepreneur, you're building the plane as you're flying it, because you have a business plan and you have some goals and you're working on some stuff. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times And what happens is people are telling you, oh, it's a bad idea. And, oh, like, are you sure you don't want to stick with your old job? And, oh, you know, you got kids. And like, what are people going to think? And you already have those thoughts in your own head.
Yeah.
And then when people are telling you that, it's just like reinforce. And you feel like going, don't you think that I already have all these thoughts in my head? Like, you can calm down, because I've already thought these through like a million times. And it reinforces those negative thoughts that we have in our head. And as an entrepreneur, the only difference between, you know, the people who succeed and the people who don't are the ones who listen and the ones who just put those blinders on and get over those those sabotaging thoughts, you know, and move forward, because those thoughts are just distracting.
Yes.
They just suck the energy. You need a lot of energy to be an entrepreneur. I think you need a lot of energy. I think you need, that's one of the things that you need. And, you know, you're building this plane as you're flying it, and you've got like goals and plans, but you know, it's not going to be wrapped up in a nice, pretty box with a nice bow on it with a paycheck.
No.
That's inheriting a business. That's inheriting a business. That's not building a business.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the hardest thing, is that we got all these responsibilities and we got all these own thoughts in our head, and we think it's going to be a certain way. We think it's going to be perfect. And it's not.
So true.
And the fun, and the other thing is, it's like, don't you think the fun part is in the failures and is in the, like, you know, the hard stuff? Like, when you get through it, those are the things that you look back on and go, either it was hilarious and, you know, you can't even believe it happened, or, you know, it was beautiful and you got a course correction and you got redirected somewhere. But for me, the challenge was listening to my own voices in my head, and then having the other voices of other people reinforcing those negative things that you already have. And you just can't do that. You are 100% responsible for your own business, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I failed at it, it wasn't the business's fault. Like you said, you know, like a lot of people fail at these businesses, and I'm like, nobody failed, they quit. And they quit because they couldn't, you know, just, it wasn't right for them, you know, because the businesses are still in business. If the business actually failed, those businesses like Arbonne would not still be around, right? But they are. And so it's because you quit, and that's totally fine. But I just wish, if I had one wish for anybody, is that we had like little earphones that we could just put in people to just to get rid of those distracting thoughts. I'm not allowed to have conversations with myself. I will literally say, eject, you know, because you know, we have those thoughts that are like, they're in our DNA. I don't care who you are. I don't care what color you are. I don't care. You have thoughts in your head that don't serve you.
Very true. There's a lot you said in there that I wanna take back off of. Okay, people. So the first thing is, when you go into business, obviously you got to do what's right for you. I have people that come to me and say, "Hey, I really want to start a business." The first question I ask is why? Well, I just want to make lots of money. And I say, no, that can't be the reason why. Because even when you make a ton of money, what's going to sustain you when you don't have the energy, when you're not happy, when you're not fulfilled? It is not going to give you joy. It's not going to give you happiness. But what you got to do is say, what do I actually enjoy? What fulfills me? That gift, let's monetize that. Because it's your why. It's going to keep you going. It's going to keep the momentum. Because like you just said, you need a lot of energy to have your own business. It is not easy, because you got to show up when no one else does. When you go to a 9 to 5, it's there. It's packaged for you. You're going to do a job, and you know every 2 weeks you're going to get paid, or every week, whatever your pay grade looks like, or your arrangement is, you're going to get a paycheck. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's not that way. You have to actually show up. You got to do the business. You got to go and look for the business sometimes, most times. You got to build a brand. You got to gain brand awareness. These things take time. And a lot of times why people give up, and they give up too soon. I don't believe in failure unless you actually quit. I think one, it's knowing, is this the right business for you? Because if you're, I was saying this to a client today, I was like, if you want to be like the next a big NBA star, you know genetically you are not built to be a basketball player. I'm not going to be tooting your horn and saying, yes, you can do it, if I know physically that or mentally that was not what you were called to do. Maybe you were called to create work with kids with autism. Maybe you were supposed to, you're an artist. Maybe you're a coach. Who knows? Maybe you're a doctor or lawyer. There's so many things you can be doing, people. But it's not chasing someone else's dream and for the money. So once you get that established, you know who you are, you know what you love to do. Yes, you need the business plan. Yes, you got to show up. Yes, you got to be marketable. This is what I say. Have good communication skills. And I don't like selling, Gayle. I'm not a seller.
No, me
Like,
neither. I'm the worst.
Like,
I'm the worst salesperson out there.
I'm not a
So
salesperson.
if people are like, I can't sell, they should come and spend a day with me.
Yeah, right? So, but then I learned it's not about selling people. The truth is, when people see what the value, what you're able to offer, generally you're going to attract the right people. That's just how it works. But if you're not showing up, if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're living in your comfort zone and you're afraid to have conversations or to share your story or share your product or service with people, then yes, it's going to be a struggle. I know for me, when I was getting ready to quit my 9 to 5, and I had a very good position working in energy. I was the communication advisor. I was doing media relations. I was managing energy efficiency, like a portfolio for all of Alberta. Great pay, pension, benefits, you name it. Being a full-time single mom as well. The fear, I had my resignation letter written for months, and I had it in my desk every day. Well, not every day, maybe every couple of weeks I would change the date. And I was like so afraid, like, okay, God, is today the day? And it was like I would just always find a reason to self-sabotage, like, no, okay, we need 2 more weeks. But then something clicked one day. I was like, you know what? The longer I'm sitting here in this position doing what I'm not actually, that's not fulfilling, is one day less, people, that I'm doing what I should be doing. And the thing is, we don't realize it sometimes, and we don't want to talk about it, is every day we're getting one day older, and we never get the time back. No matter what, money can't buy you more time. So I was sitting there thinking, Natasha, now is the time. Like, you've created the strategy, you have money in the bank, you're good. But it was the fear factor of what if, like, people are like, my mom, my dad, are you sure you really want to do this? Do you sure you want to wait maybe a couple more years? I'm like, no, now is the time. And I think that's a lot of what holds a lot of people back, is doing what they love, is the fear. Will I be successful? The negative mindset or the negative mind talk. It's so important to surround yourself with people who believe in you. And they don't have to see your vision, but actually you're going to be a positive reinforcement. You got to have people in your circle. They talk about your environment. It's so important. If you're around people who want to live the mediocre life, who think it's okay to live paycheck to paycheck, who believe that they can have better, what's going to happen to you? You're going to essentially feel the same way, because that is the environment that you're in. And what is going to grow from it? Fear, more anxiety, more abilities to believe you can achieve greater success. But if you surround yourself with a group of people, even like yourself, Gayle, who are like, I know you guys have your meetings where you guys are rooting each other on and empowering each other. What will that do for you? You're going to get up every morning and feel like, yes, I can do this. And yes, there's going to be challenges. I have challenges, but I look at them as opportunities. Like when I started my business, I started part-time in 2017. So I was like, let me sort of establish something before I walk away. I spent thousands, I say I wasted, but I think I should now look at it as an investment. I wasted thousands of dollars marketing to everybody, Gayle. And I knew the rule, like, don't market to everyone because you're marketing to nobody. But I wasn't super clear. So it takes time. Like you talked about building the business, like as the plane is flying. That's exactly what it is. You have the strategy, you have the picture of what it's going to look like, but you got to be open to other opportunities. Maybe this door you've been knocking on for a while is not the right door, but you can be rerouted to the right one, and that will open multiple opportunities. But you got to be open to seeing it. Just like when you, depending on your faith, whatever you're praying or believing God, the universe, or something greater, you got to be open to receiving what may come. It may not look like what you thought it was going to be, but it's, will you be willing to take a step in that direction to say, you know what, I'm willing to give it my all. And a lot of times why people, you don't get what you're looking for, what you really want, is because you quit too fast.
Yep.
So you got to show up. You got to keep going. So on the flip side of the challenges, Gayle, do you want to tell me what is the most rewarding about having your own business?
Yes.
What is it that you love most?
Well, there's two things. First of all, is that I think I always felt like a unicorn, because I grew up in the days before social media and before, like you didn't get any news unless it came in the newspaper, like that kind of a thing. And I used to be a dreamer, like I knew there was something that I was like, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be a rock star or but I grew up in a little tiny town in Alberta. And so those you don't, and I was like, something must be wrong with me, because, everybody, if you stand out in certain cultures and communities, there's something wrong with you, right? And so you always shrink yourself down to fit into that place that you're supposed to be. And what happened was when I started my business, like I realized there was like a whole herd of unicorns. Like I met people like Andrea and I met people like you, and you know, because it's like we got a heat sick, like we just find each other. And that has been like, you know, because that is true, because when you sit with the leaders, the conversation is different. You know, like when you sit at a table of women that are leaders, there is a completely different conversation going on than what could be going on other places. And then the second like huge factor that goes with that is that as a mom or somebody who has a daughter, I have two boys too, but I also have a daughter, you know, showing your kids how like your struggle is the best thing that you can ever do for them. When they watch you take a chance, when they watch you fail and get up and have meetings and no one comes, or have a home party and no one shows up, and your kids are all like, "Oh, mom, I thought all your friends were," you know, when they see that and they see you keep going, that is such a huge lesson to your kids. And when you are an entrepreneur, you have to be a better person. You have to work on yourself. You have to read books. You have to figure out why you're such a mess in your head and all those kinds of things. And that makes you a better parent, and it makes you a better wife, and it makes you a better sister. But what it's done for my kids is like, you know, my vision of my life was probably like that when we were growing up. And my kids' vision is like this, because, you know, they've seen, like, they're like, well, if my mom can do that, like, I'm pretty sure I can do anything. And so that, I think, is a piece of, because a lot of women don't start a business because they don't want to take the time away from their kids. You know, like, it's a big one.
It is a big one.
But I will tell you, and maybe Natasha, you too, on the other side, it's so much better for them if you are doing something that you love. Because when they see you schlepping away at some job that you don't really like, and you're only doing it for them, you know, because you need the money or whatever, that they want to see you happy. They want to see you growing. And when you start being happy and you grow, it just like ripples out to the whole family. Like, because somebody said to me one time, you know, your kids wallow in your subconscious.
I like that. We can talk about the power of the subconscious mind. We'll have to do a show just on that. There's so much power in our minds that we don't even understand. Like, if you get up and you say you're going to fail at this, I'm going to guarantee you you're going to fail. In business, if you say I don't have what it takes, you will fail. That's the truth. But if you can wake up and say, look, I will succeed. And if I don't have everything I need, I'll get the resources to support me to get what I need. And I love what you said about leaders. And yes, because we're not thinking about, like, I had some people say, like, I really want to work with you, but honestly, I can't afford it right now. I'm like, okay. That's okay. I don't discount my prices or my rates, because I know the value you're going to get from working with me. You know, so I stand behind what I do. But instead of saying I can afford it, how about you say, how can I afford it? You see the difference? So a lot of times, we have to not put ourselves in these boxes. This is what I make and this is all I see. You have to expand the vision. And you have to be ready to know that when you've asked God, the universe, for something greater, that you're ready to receive it. And a lot of times it's this mindset of ours that dictates how successful we'll become. So what are you telling yourself day in and day out? Who are you sitting around with? Who are you chilling and hanging out with? What are the conversations you're having? Your words are so powerful. And the more of us who really understand that we have the ability to create a reality, the more of us are going to be truly fulfilled, truly happy, truly successful. My daughter, an example, I love what you said about kids. Like, when I left my job, I think it took her a while to realize that mommy wasn't going to work like at the same place. Like, oh, mommy, are you going to go see your boss? I'm like, no, Natalia, mom is the boss now, right? You know, I took her to see my office. She's so excited. And so now even I've seen her spark. She started a bakery business. She tells me, Mom, I'm going to be this and this and this when I grow up. And she's like, I can be it all. I don't have to be it all at the same time, but I can do it in stages. And she's only 7. So you're so right, Gayle. And then when I'm like come from like an event where I speak at or I coach, I feel so like I'm on fire. I'm like, yes. And then my client has a breakthrough. I'm like, yes, this is exactly what I was born to do, versus going to a 9 to 5. You're sitting there and you know you're dreading going the next day, but you're going because you need the paycheck.
Yeah.
What if you wake up every morning and say, oh, I can't wait to serve. Who am I serving today? Right? Yeah. Who can I serve today using my gifts, using my talents? One, you are going to minimize your stress factor because you're loving what you're doing. Two, you're going to open more opportunities for yourself because people are going to naturally know that you're genuine about what you do and that you're not there just to make a paycheck or to get a sale, but to really impact someone, whether it's through your product or your service offering. Genuinely, that sells, right? And then last but not least, you're going to have so much more freedom. You get to create the schedule. I love that. Like I say, the first morning is for Natalia and I, and then the afternoons, it's for me and business and clients. So I get to structure my day accordingly. And then I get to decide when I want to take a vacation or, you know, what I want to do next. No one's really writing the book for me. I'm now writing it. So there's so many benefits, people, to doing what you love. And I want to ask you, Gayle, as we wrap up here, is there a favorite quote? Is there something that you would like to leave the audience with as you talk on this topic of doing what you love? Because when you do, I know, people, if it's what you're born to do, success will follow. Absolutely.
Well, and what's funny is, like, I kind of knew what the questions were, but I didn't know what you were going to say during it. Yeah. So my favorite quote is, you get in life what you have the courage to ask for. That is my favorite. Like, to me, that, and of course it's from Oprah. I mean, yeah. Like Oprah. I mean, I can't even. We could have a whole show about how much I love Oprah. But I mean, that's a mind blower. I mean, you know, so much in that, because like, if you want something, you have to ask for it. And you have to have the courage to ask for it. And that doesn't mean that you're not scared to ask for it. That just means you're going to ask for it despite the fact that you're scared. But, you know, you want to do business with someone, ask them. You want to schedule a meeting with somebody, you have to ask them. Like seriously, like from a business standpoint, I think that that's huge. Like, you want to make a sale, you have to ask for the sale. And it's not easy, but it's so funny how people fail because they think it doesn't work. And yet they never asked anybody to meet with them. They never asked anybody to, you know, take a look at their business, or that, you know, all these, and it's a simple thing, but it's a big thing, right? You have to have that courage to ask for it. And I don't have a lot of patience anymore for complainers, because I feel like we live in an age of, you know, literally, if you want to build a rocket ship, you could Google that and you could build your own rocket ship. And so these people that are sitting on the sidelines complaining and being uneducated about things is, you know, they're not even asking to get in the game, you know, and then they're saying, oh, well, I'm not in the game. You know, when you say that money's negative, you know, like a lot of people have that negative connotation about money, you know, like they're sitting there and saying, oh, you know, well, they got all this and they got all that. Well, are you asking for it? Like, that's a huge piece of, you know, and it's a spiritual thing too, because I also comes down to, like, you know, like you said, whatever your beliefs are, you know, are you asking for it? You know, like the universe or God or whoever, you know, because that's how I get over my fears is I'm like, okay, like I have to ask for this, because if I don't, I'm going to be crying in my protein shake the next day because I didn't do it.
Yes.
You know?
Such a good point. Such a good point. We got a question here from Storyteller B. We're going to answer that. But before, I just want to finish up with what you just said. Because that's exactly what it is, Gayle. You can be in it to win it. Like I said, you could actually be in it doing it, people. Or you can be sitting back and watching everybody else. And then 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to be like, oh my God, if only I had started. My one thing that helped me to push the needle and say, you know what, today's my last day. Well, it wasn't, you know, 2 weeks notice or whatever, but this is it. I'm taking the leap, was like, I had to realize that every day I said was one less day. And I was like, how would I live with myself if 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I look back and I didn't take the leap?
Yes.
How would I live with myself then? I would never know. I would never know, people. So the thing is, going to your question, Bell, this is perfect. How do you know when you have enough money to take the leap? Is that to start your own business? You want to clarify? I'm assuming that's what it is. How do you want to answer that, Gayle? I know what I'll say. How do you know? Do you have enough? You
don't. My answer is you don't. I did have a full-time job, and I had to continue working my full-time job until I balanced. So we have two stories, so that Natasha can speak to hers, and then mine is I had to keep working until I reached the pay scale in my entrepreneur business to be able to walk away from that. And so I had to fit that into the nooks and crannies of my life, because that's a time, you know, I almost, you know, I had to work 2 full-time jobs to get there, but my why was so big you know, the reason I wanted to get to that was so big that I was able to do that. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I think the biggest thing that people say is not money. Like, I don't have enough money to do it. It's, I don't have time. And yeah, you do, because I know how much like, the craziest thing is people will say, oh, you know, I don't have time. And then they're on Facebook saying, oh, what, does anybody know the next Netflix binge worthy? And you're just like, I thought you had no time to pay, like, to get another job to pay your mortgage. What? And so
Yeah.
I think it's an individual thing for everybody, but I had to work until I got that. And then the clincher with that is having to make those sacrifices, those short-term sacrifices. And I think as women, we are not sometimes willing to make those short-term sacrifices. Like, I had to miss some baseball games with my kids. I had to, you know, not be as available as I wanted to be in that short period of time. But it was such a huge payoff later on. And now to this day, if someone uses their why as an excuse not to work their business, I call them out on it. So if you want more money because you want to do more for your family, don't you dare say that you can't work because of your family, that you don't want to leave your kids, that you just threw them under the bus. I mean, what are you going to say to them 10 years from now? I could have, but I decided I needed to spend an hour putting you to bed.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. So
right?
You got to make those short-term sacrifices as the mom to make that money to be able to be in a comfortable spot to do that.
Yeah, I love what you said there. Short-term sacrifices for great rewards. How would I answer that question? So our situation is totally different. I didn't have a partner. It was solely me, my income, one income, and having two mortgages because I have a rental. So that was on the line, plus my daughter, her care, and everything else that comes in with, you know, other bills, other expenses. Childcare is not cheap. So for me, my strategy was, the first thing I did was I created, and I didn't really know what my purpose was, like my true purpose was until like in my early 30s. Maybe like in the 20s, I knew I loved to inspire, but I didn't know how. And it was in my early 30s, I made my first YouTube video, or my first, YouTube video. And I was terrified. And even coming on a live like this, every time I go up to speak, Gayle, or to do a live, I feel it in my stomach, people. It's not like, oh my God, but then it's like, it's not even nervousness, it's anticipation, because I'm excited to be out there and share. But I want you to know, if I allowed fear to hold me back, I wouldn't be here today. So for me, the number one thing was to have the vision. I started out looking into research, what the subconscious mind, how does that work? And that's why everybody needs a vision board. I mean, visually, what do you want to see? Then I created an actual strategy, like how we'd have for a business plan, Gayle. I actually created a strategy for my life. 1 year strategy. This time next year, I'll be here. And I started that probably like at 30. 29, 28 was when I started to do that yearly with my vision board. And it worked. It kept me on task. It did. And then corporate, when I decided to leave my job, my full-time job, I was 34, like almost 34. I was 33 at the time. People are like, how old am I? 36. Okay. I'm fine to say that. But I had a strategy in mind, storyteller. I had money in the bank. I had to have some money. I couldn't just leave and not have some kind of way to pay my mortgage and my bills. How much did I have? I had about at least 3 to 6 months put aside. But the funny thing is, even when I quit and I had the money sitting there, like the 6 months or whatever, I still had anxiety in a way. Like, I was like, oh my God, what if this doesn't work out? Like, what if I really made a big mistake leaving, you know? But that's why I have to continue to remind myself. My faith, spirituality kept me going. It keeps me going every day. I'm like, no, I know this is what I was born to do. I know I was born to speak. I was born to coach, to consult. So I kept reminding myself of my why. Yeah. And it wasn't like I had everything the business was all perfect and figured out then. Like, if I started 3 years ago prior, maybe, yeah, I'm still learning. I'm still growing. So the question that you need to ask yourself, and you said you want to be an author, is, okay, do I have money put in the bank? Because you're going to need that. You don't want to be stressed out, not being able to pay your bills. So you got to have some form of income put aside. Now you'll know when you're ready to take the leap of faith is when you have a strategy. So you know what you're going to be doing. It's not, I'm going out with blinders. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm just going to do it anyway. Have the strategy. And while you're at your 9 to 5 or wherever you be working at, start working on the book. Yeah. Like, get the book out there. Get it published, self-published, however. Start getting it out there. Start selling. Start telling people, I am an author. You got to speak it into being. I'm a successful author, and start sharing it with the world. And as you're going to see traction picking up, you're going to learn. There's going to probably be things that are not working right. find a different strategy, but don't give up on the goal. So I hope that helps you, storyteller. You'll know when it's enough, when you're ready to go, is when you've had enough. Enough is enough of this. I'm tired of wasting time. I know I have a strategy. I know I got some money in the bank, so I'm not going to be worried about, having to pay my bills for now. And I'm going to start working on the process to get clients or get people to buy my book, knowing that that's your purpose. That's the key, with clarity. Because once you have that clarity and that around your purpose and the strategy, I'm guaranteeing you the success will follow. As long as you're doing it, you're showing up every day, you're putting in work. And last but not least, be careful who you're sitting around. Don't share all your goals and your dreams with everybody. Keep some stuff to yourself, and surround yourself with positive-minded people. People that are going to speak life over you. People that are going to encourage you. People are going to want to help promote your book, help share what you're doing, and get on social media. If you're not, start putting it out there. All the channels that work for you. It's scary at times to put yourself out there, but just put yourself out there and do it. All right, people, that's the show. We have 1 minute left, Gayle, 1 minute and 55 seconds. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off, Gayle?
I don't think so. I just think you're awesome, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity. But I just want people to just sometimes also you've got to burn the boats, and we've all got a crutch, right? And my crutch was that full-time job, and so you've got to have that as part of your why too, because if you make that leap, you got to have some skin in the game that's going to make you work, because you're not going to feel like it. You're never going to feel like it, even if you do love what you do. There are some days where you're like, I just not, so because you're your own self-motivator, like people say, I need an accountability partner. Okay, well, first you got to be accountable to yourself.
Yes.
So
love it. All right, this has been great, Gayle. Thank you so much for joining me. Keep doing what you're doing, impacting your communities, and you're amazing. As you know, I already know how I feel about you. Thank you for joining me today. And I know you had a friend that asked how they can watch it. It will be on my IGTV, so it'll be there forever. Ideally, they can come back and watch it on my channel.
Okay.
Sound good? All right. Bye. Today was a great show. I'm going to leave you with this. Be confident in who you are, because there's no other in the world like you, truthfully. Be fearless enough to pursue what sets your soul on fire. More importantly, be bold enough to own your greatness, that purpose. You got one. You got something special within you. Find that out and share it with the world. But more importantly, be you. Celebrate you, love you, invest in you. There is nobody else in this world like you. So don't compete with others, compete with yourself, all right? And go ahead and book your complimentary session with me at natashaVrussell.com if you still have questions and you want to figure it out, all right? Take care.